Hello everyone, welcome to Commerce Piece. Friends, in my previous videos I have explained you in detail the meaning of business activities and the type of business activities. In that, the business activity was classified into two types. The first is the industry and the second is the commerce. Friends, I have posted a separate video on the meaning of business activities and the types of business activities, and one more video on the meaning of industry and the classification of industries. If you have not watched my previous videos on business activities and industry, you can find the link in the description box. In today's video, we will discuss the meaning of commerce and the branches of commerce. Before going in detail about what is commerce, let's first understand the meaning of commerce. So the meaning of commerce is the goods that are produced by the industry must be distributed and consumed. So the main job of the industry is to produce the finished products or the useful goods. It will convert the raw materials into finished products. Here the job of the industries ends after producing the finished goods. Now the job of commerce starts. To facilitate the consumption, there must be proper distribution channel. So after producing the finished products, it has to reach to the final consumer. How it will reach? Commerce is concerned with the smooth buying and selling of goods and services. So the main job of commerce is the buying and selling of goods and services, and also removing all the obstacles that is coming in between the producers and the consumers. Commerce is a very wide term that involves process of bringing goods from the place of production to the place of consumption. Commerce not only deals with the buying and selling of goods, but it also helps in the smooth process of bringing the goods from the place of production, that is from the producer to the final consumer. So this is done by commerce. In short, we can say that commerce means buying and selling of goods and services by removing hindrances of person, place and time in the exchange process. So in short, we can define commerce as buying and selling of goods and services by removing hindrances. Hindrances is nothing but the obstacles that is coming in between the producer and the consumer. How it is removing the hindrances of the person, place and time, and it will help in the exchange process, smooth exchange process between the producer and the consumer. I hope you are clear with the meaning of commerce. Let's now discuss the branches of commerce. Commerce includes trade and auxiliaries to trade. Here you can see a flow chart wherein the commerce is divided into two types. The first is the trade, the second is the auxiliaries to trade. Again, the trade is divided into two types. The first is the internal trade, the second is the external trade. Again, the internal trade is divided into two types. The first is the wholesale trade and the second is the retail trade. External trade is divided into three types. The first is the import trade, the second is the export trade and the third is the interport trade. Auxiliaries to trade includes transportation, insurance, banking, warehouse and advertising. All these activities comes under auxiliaries to trade. Let's now discuss all the branches of commerce in detail. Let's now discuss the first part of commerce, that is trade. Trade is a branch of commerce. As we have seen in the last flowchart also that the trade is a branch of commerce. It refers to sale, transfer or exchange of goods between the buyers and sellers. So trade simply means the buying and selling of goods and services between the buyer and the seller of the goods. So what is happening is, when a sale is taking place, it is leading to the transfer or exchange of goods from the seller to the buyer of the goods, and the buyer is paying money to the seller. So an individual who does trade is called a trader. So a person who is selling the good is called as a trader. He earns profit by undertaking this activity. So the main motive behind a trader is to earn the profit out of the sale. Further, trade may be classified into two. The first is the home trade and the second is the foreign trade. Again, the home trade is classified into wholesale trade and retail trade, and the foreign trade is classified into import trade, export trade and interport trade. Let's discuss the different types of trade in detail. The first is the home trade. Home trade is also known as domestic trade or internal trade. It is carried on within the boundaries of the nation. Why it is called as a home trade means because all the activities of buying and selling is taking place within a same country. That's why we are calling it as a domestic trade or internal trade. Both the buyer and the seller belongs to the same country. As the buying and selling is taking place within the boundaries of the same country, both the seller and the buyer is the citizen of the same country. Again, the home trade is classified into two. The first is the wholesale trade and the second is the retail trade. Let's now discuss them in detail. The first type of trade in home trade is the wholesale trade. It means buying and selling of goods in large quantities. When a person is buying the goods directly from the manufacturers in large quantities, then that person is taking up the wholesale trade. Traders who engage themselves in wholesale trade are called wholesalers. So a person who is doing a trade by buying the large quantities directly from the manufacturer, that trader we are calling as a wholesalers. Wholesale serve as a connecting link between producers and retailers. So there is a proper distribution channel. That is, the producer will not sell his goods directly to the retailers or to the consumers. He will go through a proper channel. He will sell his goods to the wholesaler and the wholesaler will again sell the goods to the retailers. So the producer will sell the goods in large quantities to the wholesalers. The second in the home trade is the retail trade. It means buying and selling of goods in small quantities. So the retailer will buy the goods from the wholesaler in small quantities. Unlike the wholesaler, where the wholesaler is buying the goods in large quantities from the producer, the wholesalers will sell his goods in small quantities to the retailers. Traders engaged in retail trades are called retailers. So a person who is engaged in a retail trade is called as a retailers. They act as a connecting link between wholesalers and consumers. So the retailers is a connecting link between the wholesaler and the consumers. Retail is the final stage of distribution. So retailer is the final stage of distribution as he is the last person. After that, the retailers will sell the goods to the final consumer. So he is called as the final stage of distribution because after him, no other distribution person is engaged. He will sell the goods directly to the final consumers. The second type of trade is the foreign trade. It refers to buying and selling of goods and services between two or more countries. When a sale is taking place between the members of two or more countries, then that trade we are calling it as a foreign trade. Foreign trade is also called as external trade or international trade. As the trade is taking place outside the country, that is between the members of two different countries, that's why we are calling it as an external trade or international trade because it is taking place between two different nations. That's why it is called as an international trade. Foreign trade is again classified into three categories. So the foreign trade we can classify into three types. The first is the export trade, which means sale of goods to foreign countries. When we are selling our goods to some other countries, then it is called as an export trade. Import trade, purchase of goods from foreign countries. When we are purchasing the goods from the foreign countries, then it is called as an import trade. The third is the interport trade, buying or importing goods from one country for the purpose of selling or exporting them to another country is called as interport trade. So if we are purchasing or importing the goods from one country with an intention of selling it to some other country, then it is called as an interport trade. it is also called as re-export trade, because we are importing the goods for the purpose of exporting it. That's why it is called as re-export trade. So this is the classification of the foreign trade. I hope you are clear with the foreign trade. The second important aspect of commerce is the auxiliaries to trade. Auxiliaries to trade refers to all those activities which helps in the smooth exchange of goods from the place of production to the place of consumption. So all the activities which helps in the smooth exchange of goods from the place of production, that is from the producer to the final consumer, then all those activities we call as auxiliaries to trade. These activities are generally referred to as services because these are in the nature of facilitating the activities relating to industry and trade. The main job of industry is the production of goods and trade is the buying and selling of goods and services. So what the auxiliaries to trade is doing is it is facilitating the activities of industry and also the activities of trade. That's why the auxiliaries to trade is called as the services. Auxiliaries to trade includes transport, banking, insurance, warehousing and advertising. So all these activities comes under auxiliaries to trade. Let's discuss the different types of auxiliaries to trade in detail. The first in auxiliaries to trade is the transport and communication. These are two different terms. Let's first understand what is transport. Transportation carries goods from producer to traders and finally to consumers. When the goods are produced in the industry, it is very important that it should be transported to the final consumer. So transportation is helping in carrying the goods from the producer to the traders and from the traders to the final consumers. It helps reduce the time taken for connecting two geographical locations. If we take example of tea, it is mainly produced in the state of Assam, but it is consumed in different parts of India, also in different parts of the world. So the transportation is helping in transporting the tea that is produced in the state of Assam to different parts of India and also to the different parts of the world. So transportation is connecting two geographical locations. It is because of transportation that a producer can sell his goods in different parts of the world. So transportation is helping a producer to sell his good in different parts of the world. Along with transport, communication is also an important service. So along with the transport, that is the exchange of goods between the trader, that is the buyer and the seller of good, communication is also very important. Communication means transmitting or exchanging of information from one person to another. So communication means exchanging the information between the parties involved. It is important to communicate information from one to another to finalize and settle the terms of sale such as prices of goods, discount allowed, facility of credit, etc. So before finalizing the terms of sale or to settle the terms of trade, it is very important that the two parties, that is the buyer and the seller of the goods, must come to a common terms on the prices of goods, discount allowed, facility of credit, etc. The second is the banking and financial institutions. Bank and financial institutions provide credit facility, loan, etc. So these are the facilities that a bank or a financial institution will provide to the producer or to the trader. Banking solves the problem of finance. So all the producer or the trader of goods, they will approach the banks or the financial institution whenever they face the problem of finance. Banks and financial institutions solve the problem of payment and facilitate the exchange between the buyers and seller. Banks and financial institutions, they will solve the problem of payment between the buyer and the seller of the goods by providing different facilities to the businessmen. Banks help the businessmen to overcome the problem of funds. So banks and financial institutions, they will help businessmen to overcome the problem of funds. Along with provision of funds, the commercial bank provides many other facilities such as collection and deposit of checks. As the traders or the businessmen, they will not deal in cash. So they will deal in checks or in some other form. So these facilities, that is the collection and deposit of checks, issue of bank draft, and discount of bills of exchange, facility of overdraft, arrangement in payment in foreign currency in case of foreign or external trade, all these facilities are provided by the bank or the financial institution. In case a trader is selling or buying the goods from a foreign or an external trader, then he has to pay in foreign currency. So bank will help the trader to do the payment in foreign currency. The third is the warehousing. There is a time gap between production and consumption. So when a good is produced, it is not consumed at the same time. It is consumed at a later time. So there is a time gap between production and consumption. Warehousing refers to holding of goods until they reach the consumers. So warehousing will hold the goods when it is produced by the consumer. It will supply the goods when it is demanded by the final consumers. In other words, goods which are produced at one time are not consumed completely at the same time. So it is not possible because the producer will produce the goods in bulk quantity. So it is not possible that the consumers will consume the goods at the same time when it is produced. So what the warehouses will do, it will hold the goods and it will supply the goods when it is demanded by the final consumer. So in that, it will create the time utility because it is supplying the goods when it is demanded. In that case, it is creating a time utility for the goods. The fourth is the insurance. There are a number of risks in business activity. As we all know, when a person is undertaking the business activity, there are many risks involved. So what a businessman will do, he will take different types of insurance policy to cover against those risks. Insurance reduces the problem of risk. So insurance will help the businessman to fight against the problem of risk. Risk may be due to fire, theft, accident, or any other natural calamity. So a businessman may face risk due to fire, theft, accident, or any other natural calamity like rain, floods, etc. These can be covered with the help of insurance companies. So insurance companies will help the businessman in covering these types of risk. The fifth is the advertising. Advertising fills the knowledge gap. So when a producer or the manufacturer is coming up with a product into the market, so how the consumer will know? It is through the advertising that the consumer will know about the availability of the product into the market. Advertising and publicity are important media of mass communication. So advertising and publicity are the two important aspects of the mass communication. That is to communicate with the public. It helps the consumer to know about the various brands manufactured by several manufacturers. So advertising will obviously help in the consumers to know about the availability of the brand in the market. The media used to advertise the products are television, radio, internet, magazine, etc. So a producer will use different medias to advertise his product, that is like television, radio, internet, magazines, hoardings, brochures, newspapers, etc. So it will help to know the consumer about the availability of the product in the market, and it will help in the filling of knowledge gap. So these are the branches of commerce. I hope you understood the topic. Thank you.